Toronto and Buffalo are the closest of neighbors, but the furthest from friendly. That fierce rivalry is renewed yet again tonight as these cross-border cities collide on an NLL floor as the quest for the Champions Cup begins. Rock Bandits in the East semifinal, live here on the Lacrosse Network, is next. And good evening from the Air Canada Centre. Yes, the joint is jumping as we set for the Buffalo Bandits and Toronto Rock in the first playoff game of the 2014 season. Along with Glenn Clark, five-time Champions Cup champ with the Rock and their former coach, I'm Claude Fagan. When you talk about lacrosse, it truly is a game of runs. For the Rock, well, things have certainly gone the right way of late, finishing their season with 4 straight wins to finish 9-9, surpassing the Bandits, and host this playoff game tonight. And Glenn, when you look at the Rock, they may have been able to find excuses not to continue to play. They lost Garrett Billings. They weren't doing very well, found a way to string together 4 straight wins. What has gone right for the Rock?
I think first off, the addition of Brandon Miller, giving them goaltending depth and giving him comfort at that position. I mean, every team needs 2 strong goaltenders, and that's been a big plus for them with this last little stretch they've been through. And I still think their offense, I mean, they lost one of the most dynamic players in Garrett Billings, but I still think their offense, with the depth they have, I think they're still probably one of the best at moving the ball, creating space out there, and really stretching defenses. So I think the depth they've added at the goaltending, I think the experience and just the scheme that they use on offense in terms of ball movement, putting defenses in difficult positions has really helped them through this stretch.
And I guess we'll get right to it. Brandon Miller will get the start tonight for the Rock. Some people may be a little bit surprised at that because Nick Rose had a really good game against Buffalo here 2 weeks ago in a 13-9 win. But he does have 1 playoff win. The problem with Brandon Miller, a 14-year vet, he has yet to win in the playoffs, 0-3. But are you surprised that Brandon gets the call?
No, I'm not surprised. Brandon's been a solid goaltender in this league. He's played for Canada. He's won Man Cups at the major series level. And when you look at their statistics on the year, little higher save percentage, a little better goals against average. And from a coach's perspective, you'll pay attention to stats and you'll pay attention to your gut. And nobody follows it closer than the guys that are on the bench. So the combination of those two, and to me, it's not a surprising decision. It could have went either way, but certainly Brandon is a worthy goaltender in this league.
No surprise for the Bandits, who will go with Anthony Cosmo. More about him in a minute. But when you talk about runs, the Bandits couldn't have picked a worse time to go on a bad one. They finished the season losing their last 8 games. Now, talking to Troy Cordley before the game, he says some of those games could have gone either way. The big key for this team down the stretch was discipline or lack thereof. So how do they turn things around tonight in a one-or-done situation?
It's a delicate balance. I mean, they have a very tough physical defense and a talented defense. And the nature of those players is aggression. So you really have to find a way to challenge that aggression so that it doesn't cost you in the penalty box. And I think Buffalo's defense is one of the strongest in the league, and Anthony Cosmo is a solid goaltender. So they're going to have to walk that line between the need they have to play aggressively, but also the cheap penalties, the unnecessary pushes after the whistle, the nothing slashes that end you up in the box. Those are the things they've got to avoid.
Called playoffs, right? I mean, that's what it is.
Exactly.
You're trying to get under somebody's skin. Now, when you talk about Cosmo, terrific season. Troy Cordley calling him the MVP of the Bandits this year. Where would they have been without some of his feats? In fact, led the league in saves with 752. Faced a lot of balls this year, but he was able to at least keep his team around for a lot of the games. He is 0-7 lifetime in the playoffs. Hard to believe that a guy of this caliber is 0-7. The fact is, when he started his career, it was here in Toronto with the Rock, backing up a guy named Bob Watson, who was pretty good. So he didn't get a lot of playing time there. So 0-7. What do you think his psyche's like coming in, knowing, again, it's a one and done, and you've never won in the postseason?
Cosmo's the ultimate professional, and I've played with Anthony, and I've been on the national team with him as well. And to be honest, that 0-7 number is not in his head. He'll be able to move past that, focus on the here and now, and I expect he'll bring it tonight.
All right, before the game, we'll go down to the floor now as we hear our national anthems.
Early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all our sons' command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true North, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
And there you go, national anthems in the books as we get set for the opening of this NLL East semifinal from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. And your starting goalies, as mentioned, for the Rock, Brandon Miller, 0-3 lifetime in the playoffs, but he did record a 3-1 record after being obtained by the Rock from Philadelphia. Meanwhile, Anthony Cosmo, Troy Cordingley calling him the MVP of the Bandits for this season. He gets the start in goal for the Bandits. He was 2-1 against Toronto during the regular season. Both wins coming at First Niagara Centre in Buffalo. Lost here 2 weeks ago to the Rock, 13-9 with Nick Rose in net. But Nick will be a spectator at least for the start of this game from the Rock bench, Glenn. And maybe a little bit of, I don't know if you want to call it head games, because we certainly, when we talked to Troy Cordingley before the game, we didn't get a sense if it mattered for them who was starting in goal. I think they're so worried about just getting a game in and trying to turn things around. But do you think this is a little bit of a surprise for Troy and the Bandits?
No, I don't think so. And I think from their standpoint, preparation-wise, I mean, they're going to go through what's important systematically for them, defense, offense. The goaltending will, they want to put themselves in positions to get quality shots, get quality looks. So, there may be subtle differences in what they want to do in terms of positions of shots with Brandon versus Nick. But in terms of prep, it'll be very similar.
And just taking care of a little bit of hardware handing out here just before the start of the game, or Josh Sanderson. The referees for tonight's game, the crew chief is Mark Ardonio. The assistant refs are Chris Williams and Sean Gravier. So as mentioned, the scratches for the Bandits, Kevin Brownell and Mitch Jones for Toronto. And this was a bit of a surprise, Glenn, only because of the game he had here. Kevin Ross, who's been around the league for a while now, had a 5-point game against Buffalo here a couple of weeks ago with a hat trick. He will sit this one out, along with Jim Purvis, who was part of the Nighthawks Champions Cup winning team in 2013. And we are underway in Toronto. Glad you can join us on the Lacrosse Network in Canada and the U.S. as the Rock take control. There's Josh Sanderson, who will pass it back out to Rob Hellier. What a year for Rob Hellier. A breakout year, in fact. 29 goals, 79 points. And John Lovell calling him a very pleasant surprise as the Rock run out of time here. Steph LeBlanc caught with the ball, and on the changeover, here come the Bandits. Bandits, well, aside from the 8-game losing streak, Glenn, 2-7 away from Buffalo this year. That obviously was also a problem for them, and so the road has not been kind to them at all this year.
No, and establishing a very aggressive defensive position early. They were out on hands. They weren't giving Rock a lot of time and space, and now Buffalo's going to get the opportunity to try their power play right off the bat.
Ryan Benesh gets hauled down by Cam Woods, the veteran who came out of retirement March 20th, had retired, probably figured that, hey, there's a lot more to life, and it was probably enjoying retirement, got the call, came back, and again, a stellar defensive player throughout his NLL career, and has certainly helped stabilize that Rock defense that looked a little shaky, Glenn, early in the year.
Mm-hmm. And Cam got caught with Ryan underneath, and once you give up body position underneath, you're in a lot of trouble. You got a free lane to the net, and he had to haul him down.
And there's Brandon Miller making his big first save of the game for the Rock. The Bandits, their power play proficiency this year was at 40%, but actually had a better power play on the road, converting 19 of 39 chances for 48%, which was actually second in the league. So even though home crowd sometimes can give you a bit of a boost when you have the extra man and the man up, it certainly didn't seem to matter for the Bandits, and they can certainly use a goal early to maybe establish a bit of their game as they look for any advantage. Troy Cornely telling us before the game, Glenn, that he did everything differently this week to try to get ready. And you can appreciate this as a player and coach, that when things aren't going well, you're going to try everything from new socks to not shaving to driving a different way to the arena.
Yeah, and looking at his face, he tried everything different. He wasn't very handsome in our pregame talk.
Well, you can take that many different ways, what you think of Troy, but a terrific guy, and he was very candid with us. As Benesh missed there on the power play opportunity, there's still 47 seconds, so Steph LeBlanc very calmly and wisely will wind the clock down a little bit. And here's a guy who had a career year this year, Glenn, 45 goals, 88 points. And even though he didn't have a great year last year, John Lovell saying to us, the Rock head coach, that he still thought LeBlanc contributed in many ways this year. This year, he just got rewarded for it.
Yeah, he is your prototypical power forward. He's great on loose balls. He creates space. He's a strong body going one-on-one. He creates lots of havoc for the defensive players with his size, his physicality, and he can play defense. He can shut down transition. He can be effective in that two-way game as well.
So the power play time down to 5 seconds as Stainhouse thought about a shot to Dane Smith. He shoots, misses everything, and Miller will pounce on top of that as the Rock will reclaim possession, and they kill their first penalty of the year, and that's a good thing for the Rock because they gave up a lot of goals this year on the penalty kill. Not one of their strong suits for sure, but in fact they gave up 7 shorthanders. They gave up a lot of goals. In fact, their penalty kill was 8th in the league. Gave up 42 goals and 86 chances, Glenn. That's not going to cut it most times.
No. And Buffalo is really aggressive on the defensive set so far. They are taking guys all the way out to center, out to the restraining lines.
And Watt comes through and breaks the ice for the Bandits as he took the nice feed from the corner, moved in and beat Brandon Miller, and the Bandits are on the board with a 1-0 lead.
And that started with that pressure in the defensive end. They were really aggressive on the Rock offensive players up top, got a turnover, ran the floor, didn't give the chance for the defensive guys to get set. Transition, power play, the difference makers in the game, and so far Buffalo's off to a good start with the transition goal.
And Jay Thornbear does what he does best, scoops up the faceoff and hands the ball off to his offense as they try again. Dane Smith, and it was just knocked away as the Rock, Cam Wood, knocked his stick away just before he can get a shot off, and there's Ethan Connor, who will kick it back up top to Rob Marshall, the longest tenured Rock player on the team, and he was a free agent. What a find he's been.
Yeah, he's really carved out a nice little niche for him. Defensive transition, he's very good on loose balls. He's got a good head for the net, getting up the floor.
Steph LeBlanc tried to pass it back to Josh Sanderson, missed, and there's Chad Culp and the Bandits looking for the cutter, and instead will kick it back out. And here's Sean Williams, the pride of Oshawa, Ontario. His daughter's singing the national anthem before the game tonight, so that's a nice touch for the family. There's Williams. Back to Stainhouse with the shot. Rang it off the post as it scurries all the way around. And here comes Jesse Gamble. One of the great, another great find for the Rock. Great transition player. He's really come into his own in this league.
Yeah, very dynamic player in between the zones. Very tough to take in transition. He's fast. He's strong. Gets a lot of repossessions for the Rock. Very valuable in their offense and defensive game.
Hellier with the shot. Cosmo saw that one all the way as play continues. And there's Derek Suddens, the former Rock player. You can say that about a few guys on the Bandits team. Never mind just the head coach behind the bench, Troy Cordingley. There's a lot of known entities here on both sides. In fact, 18 of the 20 players on the Bandits are from Ontario. So they obviously can almost feel like this may be a home game for them. As we take our first break of the evening, timeout on the floor, 9:44 left. Bandits up 1-0. You're watching the National Lacrosse League on the Lacrosse Network.
Support the
Flip pass. Here's a shot. Dixon into the net. Scores! Curtis Dixon again! It's 11-10 Calgary!
Want more great NLL action? Subscribe to the Lacrosse Network on your computer, tablet, or mobile device for access to all the games, live on YouTube. Get highlight reels, interactive player interviews, and behind-the-scenes coverage on all your favorite teams. YouTube.com/TLN. Subscribe today.
Support the National Lacrosse League and show the world you're a fan with team merchandise from the National Lacrosse League official online store, shop.nll.com. You'll find a great selection of National Lacrosse League team.
Evans flip pass. Here's a shot. Dixon into the net. Scores! Curtis Dixon again! It's 11-10 Calgary!
Want more great NLL action? Subscribe to the Lacrosse Network on your computer, tablet, or mobile device for access to all the games, live on YouTube. Get highlight reels, interactive player interviews, and behind-the-scenes coverage on all your favorite teams. YouTube.com/TLN. Subscribe today.
Back inside the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, Claude Fague along with Glenn Clark. You can get some new team gear for the season by visiting the NLL shop online. Go to shop.nll.com for the best prices and selection on clothing and accessories for all 9 teams with flat rate shipping and no hassle returns. The NLL shop is the place for all things NLL. Visit shop.nll.com today, powered by Fanatics. Rock come right back as Josh Sanderson gets a shot off and Cosmo standing the ground, but we've got a penalty called against the Bandits, and Glenn, this is the one thing that Troy Cordingley was really sensitive about talking to him pregame, is the lack of discipline by his team that he said, especially during this 8-game losing skid.
Well, and we mentioned it in the pregame. It's a slashing penalty to Rory Smith. I didn't see it in real time, but one of the things we mentioned was those noise-making slashes that don't really impact what you're doing on defense. You've got to avoid them.
So.
Yep. Sorry, Claude. In Toronto, I mean, I still think even without Garrett Billings, they've got one of the most potent power plays in the league, and you can't give them too many opportunities, especially free opportunities.
Well, their power play, it was second, especially at home, converting 23 of 45 opportunities this season. They actually converted exactly 50%, as Colin Doyle almost tried to add to the numbers there, hitting the post, but they converted on 50% of their chances this year, 42 for 84. And as you mentioned, the last few weeks without Garrett Billings, that says a lot about how they spread this offense out.
Yeah, they just do such a great job with ball movement. They keep their legs moving, they keep the ball moving, and they're very difficult to defend.
And the Bandits, well, they've got their job cut out for them. They were 7th in the league on the road in penalty kill, giving up 24 goals and 52 chances as the Rock hit another post. So Cosmo so far, his best friends, the 2 goal posts, have kept the Rock at bay, and it remains 1-0 for the Bandits with 8:26 to go here in the first quarter. The first 2014 NLL playoff game. This is the East Final. The winner, of course, will move on to face the 2-time defending champion Rochester Nighthawks. First game would be at the home arena of the winning team tonight. The Nighthawks would then host the second game, and under the new playoff format this year, should the two teams be tied after 2 games, there will be a 10-minute overtime to decide the third game. Glenn, what do you think of the new playoff structure this year?
I like it. I mean, anytime you can, the more games you play, it's a more true indication of who is the stronger team. We've traditionally had the one-and-done format, which, we had a lot of success with in Toronto when I was playing, but it's time for the league to give more opportunity and more time, more games, and you certainly get a better look at who deserves to be there.
Well, certainly from a credibility standpoint, if Sanderson gets another shot, you've got 6 teams in the playoffs as opposed to 8 last year where only 1 team didn't make it. So some teams knew they were going to have to fight this year to be able to get in. It wasn't a guarantee, and even once you're in, you do get to host the first game as the lower seed, but then all the pressure is really in the second and maybe third game when you have to go to the other team's rink.
Yes, yep.
And that was Diachenko who got a shot off, and John Lovell telling us before the game that Nick Diachenko has been a pleasant surprise for them as well. He's a tough, gritty kind of kid who isn't afraid to get his nose dirty, and certainly right there taking one in the schnoz going down to the turf to try to get a shot off.
Yeah, and a good offense. They need balance. They need, Toronto's got a lot of, proven goal scorers, a lot of good ball movement, good passers, good finishers. So you need people that are going to do some of the dirty work and create space, set hard picks. And he's done that. He's filled that role.
And speaking of filling a role, how about the captain, Colin Doyle? How many times have we seen this? This is now his 53rd career playoff goal, 125th point. More importantly, tying the Rock with the Bandits at once.
Yeah, and had a couple of posts early on the power play. Just came off the bench late on a bit of a delay. Caught the defense sagging back and shot past the defender. Great shot off the bar and in.
What a run Colin Doyle's had. Of course, you experienced some of that, Glenn, when you played with the Rock here. This is his 16th consecutive playoff appearance. And all he's done is just win and score. This guy's been dynamic. He's been a big reason for the franchise's return to prominence since he came back to the team, and obviously leading by example with the C on his jersey, but also with the points on the score sheet.
Yeah, and he does a lot to make the other bodies around him better as well. Like he'll move the ball if that's what needs to be done. He'll shoot the ball if that's what needs to be done, and he's got a complete arsenal from an offensive standpoint.
And you can appreciate this, Glenn, having been between the sidelines the last few years, listening to him talk to his players and his coaches. He's almost like another coach out there for his team.
Yeah, he's got certainly one of the best offensive minds in the game.
And that's a pretty good offensive maneuver there from Ryan Benesh, the former Rock player who I believe you coached when you were here, and he was the Rookie of the Year in 2007 and gives the Bandits a 2-1 lead with that goal.
And you look at the composure on Ryan. I mean, he has one of the nicest set of hands in the league, and just that ability to slow the game down when things are going 100 miles an hour around you, that's just an unbelievable goal. There's not a lot of players who would have the composure to wait that out to the very last minute and pop it in the open cage.
So Ryan Benesh, in his 8th career playoff game, gets his 16th goal and 36 points. So he certainly has been productive. Of course, he came over to Buffalo with Andrew Watt. Hit a big trade with Minnesota last year, as we have a couple of guys kind of trying to get in each other's grills right now. And again, it is playoff lacrosse. You're going to see a little bit more of the chippiness here, understandably. And I don't know who got the better of the trade-off here, Glenn, because Stainhouse goes off, and he'll certainly get in people's faces, and Cam Woods off for the Rock.
Yeah, and you're playing a dangerous game right now in the playoffs. You come out of these scrums paired off, and that's fine. But when the refs start picking one of you, you don't want to put your team in a position where you're going to be hurting them.
Well, Mark Gardonio obviously serving notice early. He's not going to put up with a lot of the extracurricular stuff, so he sends them both off. As it remains 2-1 Buffalo, 5 minutes to go here in the first quarter from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. Glad you can join us on the Lacrosse Network tonight in Canada and the U.S. Rob Hellier closely guarded, and then makes a little bit of room as Casey Beerns will kick it out Doyle again with the shot, and Cosmo will stack the pads and make that save as we get our second time out of the game. And so far, Cosmo looking good for the Bandits, and the Bandits looking good. I'm sure this has to be feeling good for them after an 8-game losing streak. They have a lead in the playoffs, 2-1 Buffalo, 4:38 to go here in the first quarter in Toronto. You're watching the NLL playoffs on the Lacrosse Network.
At the Blue Cross Arena, come cheer on your Nighthawks as they look to bring home the Champions Cup. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com or by calling 585-454-HAWK. That's 585-454-4295. The Rochester Nighthawks. No limits lacrosse.
Bandits Lacrosse. Get your tickets now, starting at just $28, or your McDonald Family 4-pack for just $89. Don't miss the hard-hitting, high-scoring action this season.
Score! Stenhouse loses a check, takes a shot, he scores!
Tickets are available at the First Niagara Center box office, online at bandits.com, or by phone at 1-888-467-2273. See you in Banditland.
The Air Canada Centre in Toronto. This is just the beginning of playoff lacrosse tonight on the Lacrosse Network. Live playoff action continues after our game tonight. The Calgary Roughnecks host the Colorado Mammoth in the West semifinal, live at 9 Eastern right here on the Lacrosse Network. And the great story out of Colorado this week, not so great if you're Dylan Ward, Glenn. He had his equipment stolen the day before he was to fly to Calgary, but the Vancouver Stealth, in a tremendous gesture, as I tweeted out this week, lent him the goaltending equipment so he could play tonight.
I read that story today, and I was, and hopefully, I mean, I've never been a goaltender. I would assume equipment is just as personalized, as probably more so than it is for players. So hopefully, the adjustment period won't be too long for him. But yeah, certainly a nice gesture by the Vancouver organization.
Absolutely, and so Dylan Ward gets to play, the rookie. He's certainly backstopped the Mammoth. They've had an interesting up and down year. Of course, they're being coached by a triumvirate of players that I believe you are fairly familiar with. As the Bandits come through, we're familiar with this guy, Sean Williams, who made no mistake on the rebound, beating Brandon Miller, and the Bandits have a 3-1 lead.
Good ball movement by Buffalo, and Sean just picked up the garbage in front. There was it wasn't a bad defensive play by Toronto. They got the strip, but the follow-up with Sean, nice little dip and dunk fake.
And it really doesn't matter who you're cheering for in these playoffs. You have to be a Sean Williams fan this year with everything that his son Tucker has gone through. Of course, we know about the league-wide initiative, Braver Than Brave for Tucker Williams, who is fighting lymphoma. And so it is great that this brotherhood in the NLL not only comes to Dylan Ward's rescue, but they've been doing it all year for the Williams family to help Tucker out, who, by the way, Sean telling us before the game is doing much better. So that is absolutely great news for the Williams family.
Yeah, and Sean is really one of the quality guys in this game. I've had a long association with Sean. We went to the same high school together, believe it or not. Played in Brooklyn, played in Toronto, so had a long association, and he is one quality individual.
Of course, he's got his career started here in Toronto before some fabulous years in Rochester. Won the first NLL Champions Cup here with the Rock in '99 at Maple Leaf Gardens, and still hard to believe that that's 15 years ago, Glenn.
Harder for me to believe.
Yes. It's unbelievable, but it's been a great run here in Toronto for the Rock. The Bandits, of course, have a pretty illustrious history of their own, and their last Champions Cup came in '08 as another shot, and Benesh does it again, and Miller gets caught out of position. So does the Rock defense. And just like that, folks, the Bandits certainly don't look like a team that's struggling. They're up 4-1.
And again, Benesh with that composure in front of the net. I mentioned off the top about the ball movement with Toronto, but so far we've got a flag. It looks like Benesh might have been toeing the crease, but we've had great ball movement out of the Bandits in the offensive zone.
Well, at the very least for John Lovell, he's trying to buy his team a little bit of time, maybe let this kind of cool off, but they will certainly look at this one as Mark Ardonio comes over to the scorers area to check out the video evidence, and that may be about the only thing that hasn't gone right for the Bandits tonight if this one gets called back, because they really have been in pretty good sync so far.
Yeah, in real time when I was watching, I thought it was a good goal, but when they showed the highlight on the Jumbotron, it did look like he might have towed the white, so we'll see how that call goes.
Gardonio looks at the circumstance here,
but again, either way, just amazing composure by Ryan Benesh. He is so calm, so smooth in front of that net. And you don't get an appreciation when you're on the floor how fast those bodies are moving. And he just has the ability to slow that game down and make the right decision time after time.
And the one thing you got to remember about Benesh, he's certainly not an intimidating specimen, but man, he knows how to play this game. He's 5'9", 180, the proud native of Kitchener, Ontario. He's in his 8th year in the NLL, and the first with the Bandits, of course, came over in the big trade that sent 2 first-round picks to Minnesota. But he ended up being the leading scorer on this team this year with 78 points, including 25 goals. Had 7 power play goals, only second to John Tavares, and they will count this one. So the foot obviously was not in there before the ball went in, and Mark Gardonio pretty succinct with that call. And so it is 4-1. And now we got to ask early on, Glenn, as a coach, and you see this sometimes just to maybe change things up. It hasn't been a great start for Brandon Miller. When do you start thinking about maybe Nick Rose to maybe just stem the tide a little bit, maybe a little Iron Mike maneuver?
Yeah, you'll be reading body language of the players. You'll be, those goals that have been scored on them, they're not on Brandon. I mean, there's been breakdowns defensively. You've had guys all alone with Brandon on the crease. So, you've got to read body language of players. You got to read situations of how the goals were scored. They certainly aren't on Brandon, but again, you do it to change momentum as well. So,
right. Well, there's no question you're not going to stop every shot, and you'd obviously, if you're Brandon Miller for sure, and you're with a new team and you're trying to win your first NLL playoff game, you're going to try to do what you can, and he comes up with a good save there. Stacks closes the door on the 5-hole anyway to keep the Bandits at bay.
But another quality look generated by the Bandits. They're getting a lot of one-on-one looks with the goaltender, and you give any team that many looks, these are pro lacrosse players, they're going to bury it.
And the one thing it almost seems like early on is Colin Doyle will get a shot off, misses everything. Behrens back to Doyle, does a little spinorama and a second one, and will try to move right in. Cosmo makes a save. You wonder if in some ways, if the pressure's off Buffalo because the season's over. They have lost 8 in a row. It is a new season, and they don't have to worry about whether they're hosting a game anymore. Now they can just literally go out and play.
Yeah, it certainly is a shift of focus. You're not worried about how the regular season's fallen away from you, and now you've got an opportunity for a one-and-done playoff game, which is all you can ask for when you're on that kind of a skid.
That was a nice little pass by Stainhouse that the Bandits couldn't finish, and here's Damon Edwards. Makes the move to the net, will move right in and runs Cosmo over, but the play will continue. Cosmo just kind of looking for some help, and Dane Smith comes to Cosmo's aid as he gets in Edwards' face a little bit. A little bit more of friendly banter between the two, I'm sure, about not messing with your team's goalie, and that's obviously a big staple of hockey and certainly in lacrosse as well, Glenn.
Same mindset, same mentality. Hockey players are lacrosse players and vice versa, so
here's Nick
they'll file that away for later.
No question about that. Nick Diachenko almost getting the double team there and gets away. And here comes Casey Behrens who gets the shot and he scores. Casey Behrens creates an opportunity and Behrens buries it as the Rock are within 2 now, trailing 4-2.
Almost looked like a little excuse me shot from Casey Behrens. He sort of had it half loaded and looked like it caught Cosmo by surprise with the release. Tricky little shot off the cut.
And you can honestly argue that the Rock needed that one with just under a minute to go in the first quarter. 52 seconds, in fact, as the Rock cut the Bandits' lead to 4-2. And for Casey Behrens, well, he's been pretty good, productive player, both in the regular season and the playoffs. This is his 12th career playoff game. That is his 18th career playoff goal and 24th point. Of course, won a Champions Cup with the Rock here in 2011. Here's a guy who's got a couple of points on this score sheet. John Tavares trying to dig it in and make a pass, and then he just gets thumped by
Little different goal by Casey Burns.
Yeah.
Most of his damage is done without the ball. He works off ball, gets off picks well. He took the ball one-on-one there and made a nice little power move to the net, which you don't see him too often. He should do more of it.
So the Rock have a delayed penalty coming up against the Bandits. They will get the man up as Dychenko hits the post as the first quarter expires, and that's after the Rock came back up the floor. Sandy Chapman just took care of the Buffalo Bandit, John Tavares, and the Rock drew a penalty. So we'll go on the power play to start the second quarter, but after the first, not bad if you're a Buffalo Bandits fan. They score 4 times on Brandon Miller to lead 4-2. This is the National Lacrosse League playoffs on the Lacrosse Network.
Evans flip pass. Here's a shot. Dixon into the net. Scores! Curtis Dixon again! It's 11-10 Calgary.
Want more great NLL action? Subscribe to the Lacrosse Network on your computer, tablet, or mobile device for access to all the games live on YouTube. Get highlight reels, interactive player interviews, and behind-the-scenes coverage on all your favorite teams. YouTube.com/TLN. Subscribe today.
Support the National Lacrosse League and show the world you're a fan with team merchandise from the National Lacrosse League official online store, shop.nll.com. You'll find a great selection of National Lacrosse League team items, including t-shirts, sweatshirts, accessories, and more. You'll also find great customer service, 365-day hassle-free returns, and fast shipping. So show the world you support the National Lacrosse League with official gear from shop.nll.com.
Back inside the Air Canada Center as we await the start of the second quarter, and my mistake, the Rock are not going on the power play. They did what most lacrosse teams do, Glenn, as the quarter ends. They pulled their goalie to get the extra attacker. Almost worked. They got a shot off Nick Dychenko. It didn't go in, but the Rock, they have their work cut out for them, and the last thing they want to do is give Anthony Cosmo a lot of leeway, because this guy, he may be 0-7 in the playoffs, but he's a world-class goalie, and they have to try to figure out how to solve them. On the other hand, the Bandits don't look like a team that's lost 8 in a row. They've shown a lot of poise and certainly full value for the 4-2 lead.
Yeah, and things we mentioned off the top. I mean, I've really liked the ball movement from Buffalo. It's one of the things I would have been critical with earlier in the season was it was staying in one stick and too predictable. But they've done a good job moving bodies, moving the ball, and create some space for themselves.
And just a reminder, should the Rock come back and win this game tonight, they would host Game 1 of the East Final against the Rochester Nighthawks next weekend here at the Air Canada Center. For the latest info on the game and tickets, as the Rock are denied, you can visit the Rock's website, torontorock.com. The Bandits come back down the floor on the attack, denied as Stainhouse fights for the ball, but here come the Rock. Here's big Cam Woods, 38 years old, the senior member of this Rock team. Finally got his first Champions Cup trophy a couple of years ago. Waited a long time, Glenn.
He did, and another real good guy of the game. And it's funny, I was talking to Cam earlier in the season when he was retired and asking him how things were going, and he was enjoying it. And then the next thing I know, he signed back on. So good for him.
Well, obviously left on good terms here, and the Rock were in need of some defensive grit. And he certainly has provided that as Casey Beards missed on the offensive side as the Bandits will now take over. Here's Joe Resetaritz. Over to Sean Williams to John Tavares in his 23rd season in the NLL. He's just been a machine. And even this season bounced back with a nice year for the Bandits. Got his 800th career goal in Buffalo. I was honored to be able to call that goal with the game on TSN2 a few weeks ago. As here comes Damon Edwards, thought about going right to the net, and then we'll pull it back.
really remarkable what John, I mean, he's 45, 46 years, turning 46 years of age this year. And, I played junior and started our pro and senior and everything, and I'm long done, and he's still going on. So I have a great appreciation for what he's been able to do.
Yeah, Rob Hellier with the shot and the save. Yeah, can we just call him a freak of nature for what he does and how he's done it, and at a prolific level, as Miller makes a nice save there.
Well, and there's no shortcuts in the game of lacrosse either. I mean, you pay a price every time you step on that floor, and the body takes a beating, and for the rest of us mortals, it eventually breaks down, but he seems to be able to keep it going.
Well, Tavares, 16 games this year, 24 goals, 51 points. 19th postseason. In 33 games, he's amassed 77 goals and 183 points, and I think we can add one more to the total today. No, we can't. So still 183 points in 33 games. That's pretty impressive. And so is that as the Bandits come back, and Stainhouse lights the lamp past Brandon Miller as the Rock now trail 5-2.
Started with really aggressive defense by Rory Smith down at the end. He stripped Josh, picked up the loose ball, moved it up quickly, and what a shot by Stainhouse.
So Stainhouse in his 21st playoff game gets his 42nd goal. He now has 68 points, of course, was part of the Bandits 08 Champions Cup winning team. If it wasn't for a guy named John Tavares in Buffalo, Glenn, this guy would be the franchise's all-time leading everything. He has been pretty good, and the native of St. Catharines, Ontario.
And an exceptional athlete, and didn't pick up the game of lacrosse till he was 17 or 18 years old, which is just, to me, incredible. I mean, with the stick skills and the way he shoots the ball, just is a testament to the kind of athlete he is.
Hellier denied there by Billy D. Smith, and of course, the good thing about Stainhouse is he's multifaceted. Sanderson moves in and scores. Josh Sanderson will get one back for the Rock as they trail 5-3.
Nice two-man game between Doyle and Sanderson. Good little pick and roll. Josh doesn't miss those when he gets in tight.
And Josh Sanderson, well, here's another guy that knows a thing or two about scoring. 11th straight postseason appearance. That is now his 29th career playoff goal in 18 games. And he's done it everywhere. And, of course, won a championship in Calgary in 09, won one with the Rock in 11. Pretty good player, Glenn. I think that's safe to say that Josh Sanderson has more than held his own. And there's Casey Beards, who tried to bury one and then gets blasted on the other end as the Bandits come back.
The amazing thing about Josh is, in a game that's so physical, I'll let you finish the goal there.
Well, the Bandits come right back. They waste little time as the former Rock, Jamie Rooney, finds net past Brandon Miller. And Miller, 14 shots against, has given up 6 goals. And the Rock now trails 6-3.
Bandits doing a good job generating transition as well. They've had a couple opportunities off the bench, but to finish that point on Josh, I mean, in a game that is so physical, his physical set of tools isn't what others have, and he's had the ability to be one of the best players in the game for a long time.
So Jamie Rooney, who was traded to Buffalo along with Glenn Bryan, gets one for his new team.
And a real nice transition opportunity generated off the bench by Buffalo. They've done that a couple times tonight.
And here come the Rock in transition as they get a shot off. And denied by Cosmo once again as Jesse Gamble couldn't find the back of the net. So it remains 6-3 with 10-10 left to go here in the second quarter at the Air Canada Centre. The 2014 National Lacrosse League playoffs underway here on the Lacrosse Network. This is game 1 of 2, of course, later. The Calgary Roughnecks, who had a pretty good season at 12-6, will host the Colorado Mammoth at the Scotiabank Saddle Dome. That's 9 p.m. here on the Lacrosse Network. And back come the Rock. Sandy Chapman had a pretty good offensive year, Glenn. 4 goals for Chapman, and not known necessarily as a goal scorer, but he certainly was able to contribute that way as well. And back come the Bandits. Mitch Wild, the give and go, and the shot misses everything. And here comes Damon Edwards, who will bring it back over the timeline, trying to get the Rock back into this. LeBlanc with a couple of passes, and they score. Rob Hellier, nice tic-tac-toe by the Rock, and Hellier fills the back of the net as the Rock trails 6-4.
Beautiful 3-on-2 in transition, and the composure we mentioned with Ryan Benesh. Hellier showed a little bit of that himself. Tiptoeing the line, waiting for Cosmo to overcommit. Real nice composure along the crease. And great ball movement. What a three-way passing play started off by Edwards.
So Hellier picks up his second point of the game. And we talked about Rob Hellier with his breakout year this year. And here come the Rock again. Ethan Connor with a shot. And this time, Cosmo stacks the pads as the Rock were looking for another. They caught the Bandits flat-footed. Here comes Dane Smith. Gets it back, a shot, and misses everything. And so now the action, Glenn, looks like it's starting to pick up on both ends. Both teams out and running a little bit more. Maybe the early jitters, or maybe the Rock are just forcing the issue now, trailing, that they have to start sort of picking up the pace a little bit.
Yeah, there's certainly a transition game for both teams. It's certainly picked up.
And here's another one here as Scott Johnson moves in, tries to duck one guy in the second, gets knocked down, draws the penalty. Chad Culp will pick up the ball. But Scott Johnson draws the penalty, and the Bandits not too happy about the call. And what a run by Scott Johnson, who's one of the toughest guys in the league, right up there top 5 in penalty minutes, but showed a little bit of the wheels there to draw the penalty.
Yeah, nice little move in transition. And even though you don't get the goal, you're forcing the defensive players to, compromise their positions and, in this case, take a penalty.
6-4 Bandits. Rock on the power play when we come back. You're watching the National Lacrosse League playoffs on the Lacrosse Network.
This is Buffalo Bandits Lacrosse. Get your tickets now, starting at just $28, or your McDonald Family 4-pack for just $89. Don't miss the hard-hitting, high-scoring action this season.
Score! Stenhouse loses check, takes a shot, he scores!
Tickets are available at the First Niagara Center box office, online at bandits.com, or by phone at 1-888-467-2273. See you in Banditland.
Hawks are heading to the playoffs. The quest to make history begins on Saturday, May 17th at 7:30 p.m. at the Blue Cross Arena. Come cheer on your Nighthawks as they look to bring home the Champions Cup. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com or by calling 585-454-HAWK. That's 585-454-4295. The Rochester Nighthawks. No limits lacrosse.
Inside the Air Canada Centre as the Rock set to go on the power play, down 6-4 with 8:39 to go in the second quarter. Trying to get back into this a bit, Glenn, and we were talking about the fact that it looks like there may be a shift of direction from John Lovell, the Toronto Rock head coach, as far as attack plan, getting down early, maybe thinking they have to push the pace a little bit more to sort of get the Bandits off their game and try to score some goals.
Yeah, and when you're having trouble scoring in the 5-on-5 half-court game, transition can be a difference maker, and it's never a bad idea to push pace and get, offensive players stuck at the defensive zone and catch people moving in difficult positions.
So Chad Culp, the culprit on that penalty, as the Bandits find themselves down a man, as Billy D. Smith will scoop up the loose ball and passes it up to Priolo. Big tough guy, but also did a fair bit of scoring this year. In fact, his 18 assists were first in the NLL amongst defensemen and second in the LNL in points with 26. So he's a big tough guy.
Yeah, and he's, one of the heavyweights. He's arguably one of the toughest guys in the league, but he's another guy who's really polished his game. And he's become one of the best transition defensive players in the league. And he's a great athlete. Good skill set for that transition game. And he's also got a, world-class toughness.
In fact, he was third in the league this year in penalty minutes, so we know he's not afraid to mix it up, as Steph LeBlanc was denied again by Cosmo. And so far, the Rock, 23 shots, and Cosmo's come up big with 19 saves. And he's used to facing a lot of balls. In fact, Glenn, 752 shots during the season was #1 in the league. So seeing all those shots, nothing new for Cosmo.
It probably puts him in a bit of a comfort zone. He's used to being active and making lots of saves. And Cosmo's been doing this at a high level for a long time.
On the other side, the Rock have only managed 16 shots, the Bandits have only managed 16 shots on Brandon Miller, but have beaten them 6 times. So not the start that Brandon Miller was looking for his new team as he tries for his first NLL playoff win. He's 0-3 lifetime. Cosmo 0-7, so something's got to give as Colin Doyle finds the back of the net. Doyle delivers again as the Rock cut the lead to 6-5.
Similar position, far post, mid-bar down, and Colin's got that deceptively strong, quick shot. He buried it over the defender again.
So for Colin Doyle, his second goal of the game, 54th of his great playoff career. And more importantly, the Rock, maybe the pushing of the pace is paying off for them because they now find themselves down by a goal at 6-5. And you saw the rugby-like scrum at center there trying to get the ball before the Bandits finally picked it up. There's Dane Smith with shot is blocked.
Yeah, and I think both teams assumed this game was going to be tight all the way through, so, they're not going to get alarmed by much that's happening right now. They're going to be worried about executing on defense, offense, and transition, and they know the result's going to be close towards the end of the game.
Resatera's shot missed everything, so the Rock will take over possession on the changeover with 6:15 to go here in the second quarter at the Air Canada Centre. Josh Sanderson guarded by Mitch Wild, the pride of Brooklyn, Ontario. The pass inside, and the Rock player absolutely annihilated there, Nick Dychenko. And here comes Mitch Wild in transition, and Brandon Miller stands his ground that time, makes the save. And here comes Damon Edwards over the timeline as the Rock will reset. He'll hand off to the offensive players. There's Doyle looking for the hat trick and just gets past Cosmo as Sanderson keeps it inside the offensive side. And Hellier, Doyle got the hot hand, and there's the Hattie. Colin Doyle, the captain, with the hat trick, and more importantly, giving the Rock their 6th goal. It is 6s up here at the Air Canada Centre.
And such a smart offensive player. I was just about to mention that he kept going far post, and even the shot prior to that missed far post. And it looked like he caught Cosmo leaning a little bit and pulled it back on the short side.
And scoring against the Bandits, nothing new for Doyle this season. He racked up 3 goals, 12 points versus Buffalo in their 3 meetings this season. Finished with 31 goals on the year, 72 points. Although he was goalless in his final 3 games, so Glenn, this has to feel really good for Colin to not only get on the score sheet with another goal as the Bandits reclaim the lead 7-6.
Nice athletic move by Ryan to get underneath, and we were mentioning before about not as the biggest guy stature-wise, but what he is he's got a very strong. His legs are powerful, sort of like a Sidney Crosby type of athlete where he's got a lot of push out of his legs and a lot of strength. And he used that there to get underneath Rock defender. Good strong move to the net.
So Banesh picks up his 2nd goal of the game, his 3rd point. He had 7 goals, 12 points against the Rock this season in those 3 games. And of course, Glenn, you know this firsthand. He was the Rookie of the Year in this league in 2007 when you coached him here in Toronto. And all he's done is produce wherever he's been, and no different tonight.
No, and he's one of those dangerous players where he can beat you, in different spots on the floor. He's got a great outside shot, but when he's in tight, he's got one of the nicest set of hands in the game. And he's got that composure we mentioned around the crease, which makes him a dangerous threat every time he's out there.
So we have a timeout on the floor. The Bandits have regained the lead the Rock 7-6. You're watching the National Lacrosse League playoffs on the Lacrosse Network.
Support the National Lacrosse League and show the world you're a fan with team merchandise from the National Lacrosse League official online store, shop.nll.com. You'll find a great selection of National Lacrosse League team items, including t-shirts, sweatshirts, accessories, and more. You'll also find great customer service, 365-day hassle-free returns, and fast shipping. So show the world you support the National Lacrosse League with official gear from shop.nll.com.
Evans flip pass. Here's a shot. Dixon into the net. Scores! Curtis Dixon again! It's 11-10 Calgary.
Want more great NLL action? Subscribe to the Lacrosse Network on your computer, tablet, or mobile device for access to all the games, live on YouTube. Get highlight reels, interactive player interviews, and behind-the-scenes coverage on all your favorite teams. YouTube.com/TLN. Subscribe today.
Hey fans, just a reminder, should the Bandits win this game tonight, they would host game 1 of the East Final against the Rochester Nighthawks next weekend at First Niagara Center in Buffalo. For the latest info on the game and tickets, visit the Bandits website, bandits.com. You can also watch any NLL game from earlier this season on demand thanks to the Lacrosse Network. Just go to NLL.com and click on schedule from the main menu bar. Scroll to the game you'd like to watch and click replay. It's any game, anytime from NLL.com and the Lacrosse Network. And Glenn, this might be a game that people may want to watch. The way it's gone, it's certainly picked up in pace, and it's been a pretty good playoff game.
That's certainly shaping up as a game that's going to go down to the finish for sure.
Well, these teams certainly have a lot of history together, and in the playoffs, especially the last few years, the Rock have dominated the Bandits as far as win-losses. In fact, the last 3 meetings between these two teams have all been won by the Rock. 2 here in Toronto, 1 in Buffalo, and that was with Troy Cordingley behind the bench, and now he's, of course, on the other side trying to change that up tonight.
Yeah, they'd be trying to work a little magic in the other direction.
Stainhouse with the shot. Miller may have gotten a piece of it as it goes into the crowd, and it is Buffalo ball. 4:02 to go here in the first half. 7-6 Bandits. NLL East semifinal. The winner will move on to play the well-rested Rochester Nighthawks, who, of course, have the bye week for winning the division title. And, of course, are the 2-time reigning NLL Cup champions. There's Johnson again getting free, and so looks like a bit of the strategy for the Rock will be to just send one of their players, maybe not the guy that the Bandits are expecting, and for the second time, Johnson almost ends up with a goal.
Yeah, and these offensive players, if they're slow to react to the transition, they're going to get burned because these guys are ready to run right away.
Miller with a save there as here comes Jesse Gamble and can't quite hang on to the ball. Dane Smith, slight height advantage over Gamble as he is able to pry the ball loose and gets it back as he brings it over the timeline with 3 minutes to go here in the first half at the Air Canada Center. Stainhouse, he scored tonight. Double teamed, and it looks like the Rock defense collapsing on the forward just a little bit tighter, maybe not allowing as much leeway for the Bandits to try to maneuver, and it worked that time as the Rock retained possession. There's Sandy Chapman, who will drop off to Rob Hellier.
I think Buffalo's got to be careful about getting into that sort of one-on-one game. That last offensive set, the ball stayed in one stick. Everybody collapsed. It's easy to play defense when you know where the ball's staying. They were doing a good job early.
And Bearns busts through the crowd and buries it. And it's 7-up here at the Air Canada Center.
And as we mentioned earlier, that's how Casey scores most of his goals. Off ball with good ball movement, good picks. And the point I was making with Buffalo's offense is when they become predictable, it stays in one stick. You know, they're not as effective. Early in the game, they were moving the ball, and that's what's got to be happening for them to have success at the offensive zone.
And Casey Bearns with his second goal of the night, and he certainly had no problem scoring against Buffalo this year. 5 goals, 10 points versus the Bandits in 3 head-to-head meetings. In fact, he finished with 9 goals in his last 5 games, so he certainly found a good time to sort of pick his game up. and bringing it into the playoffs. Just another weapon for the Rock to try to beat you with.
Well, I think Casey's one of those guys that makes everybody so much better by his ability to get to the net without the ball, and those world-class feeders find him when he's in space.
And we will have a penalty on the play. Mark Gardonio with the call as Stainhouse got taken down. And we should point out, Glenn, I don't think we did yet, I mentioned the referee crew at the start of the game. We now have 3 officials on the floor for this game tonight. This is something that I think was a long time coming. A lot of people talking about how the game has gotten faster, the guys are more athletic, and another set of eyes on the floor is never a bad thing.
Agree. You know, it is fast, and there's lots of stuff happening away from the ball that you can't always see with the 2 officials, so I don't think it's going to hurt the game at all.
As Tavares' shot is deflected and goes out of bounds, Damon Edwards getting his stick on it, so the Bandits will retain possession with a fresh shot clock and looking again to regain the lead. Banesh, once again, well, he's been all over the Rock net tonight and looking for another one there, denied this time, as Chapman will eat up some valuable minutes or seconds, hopefully 2 minutes as far as he's concerned, but the Rock now in defensive mode as they will spread the floor a little bit. Diachenko, as we talked about, his physical presence, obviously not afraid to take a couple of hard knocks, and look, keeps moving, keeps looking for somebody, bounces off a couple of players, and he ate a lot of time there, basically burned the shot clock, so pretty good job by Diachenko as the Bandits will come back up the floor with a minute roughly left on their power play opportunity here. In a 7-7 tie with a minute left to go here in the second quarter at the Air Canada Centre. The shot by Banesh, and guess what? Back of the net for Banesh again. He has been money tonight as the Bandits regain the lead 8-7.
Another one of the tools in his offensive arsenal, the outside shot where he just ripped it. And what placement. He just puts it low inside bar. Just such a polished goal scorer.
Hi everybody, I'm your host, Dave Walls. Well, the regular season is over with, and now the race to the Champions Cup begins tonight. Let's take a look at what happened first in Week 18 of the regular season. 4 games in action, some of them with some significant meaning to the playoffs. First of all, Colorado defeated the Philadelphia Wings in a hotly contested battle, 13-12. That victory helped give Colorado the number 3 seed in the Western Division playoffs. Toronto moved up to number 2 with a win over the Minnesota Swarm, 8-6. Rochester helped Buffalo continue their slide with a 16-14 victory. Finally, Calgary took it to the stealth, 14-8. Let's get a look at the final standings now as we move towards the playoffs and let you know who's going to be playing whom this weekend. First of all, in the NLL's Eastern Division, the Rochester Nighthawks have a first-round bye with their 14-4 record. Toronto's victory on Week 18 helped push them to 9-9, and now they have a home playoff game where they'll be playing the number 3 seed Buffalo Bandits tonight. Buffalo's slide to 8-10 is certainly a disappointment, but with a win over Toronto tonight, all is forgotten in Bandit land. The Philadelphia Wings fell to 4th place, missing out on the playoffs with a 6-12 record, while Minnesota will look for their young squad to rebound in 2015 with a 4-14 win-loss record. In the NLL's Western Division, the Edmonton Rush reigned supreme with a first-round bye and an impressive 16-2 record. The Calgary Roughnecks sit comfortably in 2nd place with a home game as well, with their 12-6 record, just 4 games back of the Rush. Colorado was able to secure the number 3 seed in the Western Division. They'll go on the road with their 8-10 record, while Vancouver wraps up a disappointing first season in BC with their 4-14 record. So all teams are on the same level. That does it for this edition of NLL Half.
Despite being outshot 30-23 in that first half, but as we mentioned, they seem to show some resiliency as Stainhouse drives the net and then got pulled back. Brandon Miller will grab that one, and the Rock come back up floor. As time will tell, as they say, Glenn, in the second half here, how the Bandits respond here. If the Rock can find a bit of a groove, of course, this is a game of runs, and see what happens. But the Bandits, certainly credit to them, despite an 8-game losing streak and everything seemingly down, have found a way to sort of keep things positive. as Cosmo comes up with a save there. He hasn't hurt either. He's made some big saves.
And the Rock really had trouble earlier in the year giving up runs. They had a series of games where they'd give it up 6-7 goal runs. So I'm hoping they've corrected that for their sake, but this will be a key stretch early.
Chad Culp couldn't handle the ball in front there, Glenn, and absolutely, certainly from a Bandits perspective, you got to believe that they know the Rock will be keying in on one Ryan Benesh a little bit more. So the key is, how do you spread the offense out? If you've got Tavares and Steinhaus and Sean Williams available to you, I guess you're going to try to utilize that.
Yeah, and if they do key on one player, you try and use it for your advantage. You try and spread the floor, stretch them out, get some passing lanes. And Ryan, he's good at finding guys off ball, so that can you can turn that into an advantage for your group.
Dane Smith takes the outlet from Anthony Cosmo as the Bandits will come down, and Smith thought about pulling back and thought about shooting, and then hands it off to the aforementioned Sean Williams. And there's Steinhaus in his office in the corner looking perhaps for a pass, and here's Benesh, the man of the hour, with the shot. Miller with the save as Joe Resetaritz couldn't handle the ball, so the Rock will recover, and here comes Damon Edwards. Edwards, a bit of a puzzle for John Lovell this year, had some great stats, in fact career year, but for Lovell sometimes some lapses that may have cost him and his team, but overall he told us before the game, Glenn, that he's very happy with what he saw from Damon Edwards this year.
Yeah.
Behrens with a quick shot, and it's in the net as it just fools Cosmo, and Behrens buries another one, and 2:38 into the third quarter as the Bandits ask for a flag. For now, the game is tied at 8.
Yeah, Anthony Cosmo doesn't seem to think it went in. Referee was in great position behind the net, right on the goal line, so he had a great vantage point of it. Cosmo doesn't seem to think it's in. They're not getting a replay to look at. So.
Right, if it did go in, it barely just trickled in, and so as we get another look at the replay, Doyle in front of Behrens, and there's the ball behind Cosmo, no question about it. It did cross the line as Colin Doyle picks up another point, and this time Resetaritz denied by Brandon Miller. So the Bandits do what they've done the whole game. They come right back, and here's Ethan Connor on a breakaway, the rookie, denied by Cosmo. But Glenn, the Bandits have found a way to come back and come back. Every time they give up a goal, they're certainly not retreating. They seem to be on the offensive, trying to regain that edge.
No, and you can't let goals in lacrosse, sort of cripple your psyche. It's going to happen. I mean, it's a high-scoring game, so you stick with your plan, you play your systems, and you have confidence that when the dust settles, you're going to be ahead.
And the Rock almost grabbing the lead there. The ball off the post, saving Cosmo this time as the Rock recover. Here's Doyle right in on goal, and Cosmo will stack the pads and stop that one. 3:39 gone here in the third quarter at the Air Canada Centre. The first playoff game in the National Lacrosse League of 2014, the East Semifinal. Bandits looking to snap an 8-game losing streak. Rock looking for a 5th straight win, and here's Scott Johnson with a shot, and Cosmo sticks out the pad, and again Johnson breaking in and again denied as Mitch Wild will take the long pass and pass it off, but nobody there. Benesh had cut to the net, and so Cam Woods, the wily vet, kind of draped by John Tavares, still found a way to get the ball to his teammates, and so Ethan O'Connor will leave for Josh Sanderson as the Rock look to reload here in an 8-8 tie. Hellier moves in, and Cosmo sticks out the arm on that one, and Hellier denied for a chance at his second goal of the game and the Rock's first lead of the game. Doyle with a great pass, and Behrens hits one right off the pipe. And the Bandits come down. Dane Smith with a shot, and Miller makes the save as Nick Diachenko went flying literally into the net and took the net with him and almost into the first row here at the Air Canada Centre.
I think that might have got bar as well. I think that might have got in behind and hit the bar in behind Brandon Miller.
So great scoring chances on both ends. So clearly neither team sitting back hoping for that one chance. They're trying to create chances and trying to regain the lead. Rock, as mentioned, looking for their first lead of the game. The Bandits have done a pretty good job of bouncing back after giving up the goal. Here's Stainhouse, guarded closely by the veteran Merrill. Patrick Merrill will force the long pass, and the Rock pick it up again. And here's Jesse Gamble in transition. Has Merrill with him, but chooses to pull it back, and maybe wisely on a 2-on-2, Glenn decides to give it up to the offense.
Yeah, right choice. And it looks like Buffalo's got a delayed penalty. I don't know if it was too early out of the box in transition, but Toronto's going to get an opportunity 6-on-5,
and Mark Ardonio has the arm up, so we will get it here. And the call against the Bandits, as the Rock will have a chance to go on the power play. It is a slashing call against the Bandits. Billy D. Smith, who's been inactive the last few weeks, back in the Bandit lineup. Big, tough presence. 12th year out of St. Catharines. He will go to the box. And we will come back after the break with the Rock on the power play. Rock 8, Bandits 8. You're watching the National Lacrosse League on the Lacrosse Network.
Support the National Lacrosse League and show the world you're a fan with team merchandise from the National Lacrosse League official online store, shop.nll.com. You'll find a great selection of National Lacrosse League team items, including t-shirts, sweatshirts, accessories, and more. You'll also find great customer service, 365-day hassle-free returns, and fast shipping. So show the world you support the National Lacrosse League with official gear from shop.nll.com.
Evans flip pass. Here's a shot. Dixon into the net. Scores! Curtis Dixon again! It's 11-10 Calgary.
Want more great NLL action? Subscribe to the Lacrosse Network on your computer, tablet, or mobile device for access to all the games, live on YouTube. Get highlight reels, interactive player interviews, and behind-the-scenes coverage on all your favorite teams. YouTube.com/TLN. Subscribe today.
All right, back at the Air Canada Centre, and double trouble for the Bandits, because originally we thought that Billy D. Smith had picked up the lone penalty on a slash. As it turns out, and Glenn, you were right about this, the Bandits got called for illegal substitution, or too many men on the floor, and so Chad Culp will be serving that one. So the Rock have a 2-man advantage for 2 minutes or less. Great passing by the Rock, and the shot, and the goal. Or is it? Yes, it is. Josh Sanderson. The Rock wastes no time. Doyle, Behrens, Sanderson equals goal, and a 9-8 Rock lead.
Anthony Croswell's calling for the flag again. Pretty tough to stop a 5-on-3, and especially with the way the Rock moves the ball. They have dynamic ball movement, get defensive players jumping all over the place.
So Cosmo looking for the flag, and Troy Cordingley not throwing it. And clearly when the coach can take an advantage of a situation as the Bandits come right back, Priolo tied up in his shot attempt. You may wonder why he wouldn't throw the flag there, Glenn, unless he's not 100% sure he doesn't want to waste that one flag he's got, right?
Yeah, and from the replay, it looks like it did actually go in, and you'll get information from players on the floor and on the bench, and make your decision based on that. I don't think goalies think the ball ever goes in, so I wouldn't trust a goalie.
Of course not.
It's the reason why they don't have the flag.
It's a 0 goals against average for the Netties, right?
That's right. You never give the goalie the flag.
Well, the Bandits, they're trying to do something they haven't had to do all game, and that's come from behind. They trail for the first time in the game 9-8 with 8 minutes to go here in the third quarter at the Air Canada Centre. Nice moves there by Dane Smith and a good save by Brandon Miller. Smith showing a little bit of footwork there, but Miller equal to the task, and so far so good in the second half for Miller halfway through the period, Glenn.
Dane Smith has such a quick first step. He's got the ability to create space for himself. He's done that a few times this game. He hasn't been rewarded, but he's certainly created a lot of opportunities.
Well, you can see some of the Rock strategy when it comes to John Tavares. He is getting no room at all and getting no love from the Rock defenders. Pretty much hit at every opportunity, and that's one way to keep the NLL's all-time leading scorer off the board if he can't get the ball and doesn't have the room. And the Rock come back looking for yet another goal. They still have 10 seconds left on the power play. LeBlanc with the shot. It's blocked. And the Bandits will kill off the remaining few seconds as Andrew Watt comes down, and he's stopped by Brandon Miller. Miller certainly looking a lot sharper here in the second half and in the third quarter, making a couple of big saves so far to keep the Rock ahead 9-8.
Yeah, he's doing the job of the goaltender. You got to kill momentum if you can, and Buffalo's had a couple good opportunities, and he's shut the door, and that's what you need.
So John Lovell looking pretty good for not pulling his netminder early when it looked like he might just for a momentum shift, but clearly, as Hellier gets a shot off on Cosmo, he had enough faith in Brandon Miller to think that his team would get it going and he would make some big saves down the road, and so far, John Lovell looking good right now.
Yeah, and the gap didn't get unmanageable. I mean, Buffalo was up, by especially early. I mean, there's no time to panic, and composure is probably the best ally of a coach at times.
This is a game of runs, right, Glenn? So you know that yours is going to come at some point, and unless you get really far behind, you're not going to make that change. And we saw an example of that here in 2010. The Rock hosted the Bandits in a playoff game, got behind 6-0 early with Bob Watson in net, and there was no panic from Troy Cordingley and the coaching staff, and the Rock went on to win that game 13-8. So clearly, you got to give your vet, especially if it's a veteran goalie, I would assume you got to give him a chance, right?
Yeah, and a lot of those guys get into their groove, and the thing with the good goaltenders and the championship goaltenders, and Bobby Watson was probably the best example of this. He was such a timely goaltender. I mean, he made saves down the stretch when you needed it, when you needed to keep it close or maintain a lead, and the good ones sort of have that skill set.
Well, he was something else, and of course in the Hall of Fame, inducted a couple of years back, along with his then backup partner when they won the Cup here in 11. As the Rock come back up the floor, here's Rob Hellier. Sanderson looking for a cutting lane, nobody there as Hellier will get it back, gets the shot as Cosmo makes the save, and Steve Dietrich, of course, was the backup for Bob Watson. Of course, he's in the Hall of Fame as well. That's a pretty good tandem they had here in 11 en route to the Champions Cup victory.
Yeah, and goaltending depth, I mean, it always helps, and we mentioned that off the top with Toronto, having Brandon and Rose now, it gives them a better 1-2 punch, and, gives the coaches and the defenders a lot more confidence and security in that end.
And of course, Dietrich now the general manager of the Buffalo Bandits. As the shot goes through, Miller can't stack the pads, and that's in the net. A little bit of a scuffle after the fact, but the Bandits find a way to get it back. It's not pretty, but they all count, and it's 9-9.
That's number 5 for Ryan Benesh, just finding a way, finding a hole in between the stick and the leg on Brandon. Light in the shot clock, too. That one hurts.
So Benesh continues to light up Brandon Miller in the Rock. 4:23 to go here in the third quarter, and we have a brand new game again, tied at 9s.
Good response from Buffalo. You don't want, you don't want to let the team create any separation.
Good response, but I'm sure that's one Brandon Miller would love to have back, as he did partially get it, and then it just trickled through, but. Again, once they get past that white line, the red light goes on the same way, and so we've got a brand new game and a lot more hope for Buffalo now, back on even terms, tied at 9s. Good play there by the Rock defender as Jesse Gamble comes down one-on-one. Will try his luck, shoots it, and it's off the side of the net as Cosmo kicked it away. And the Rock will reload, looking to regain the lead. Billy Hostrausser with the play on the defensive end, and Jesse Gamble almost gave the Rock the lead again, and back come the Rock, and there's a guy that would love to get going here tonight, Steph LeBlanc. 45 goals in the regular season, career high in goals and points, 7th in the league in scoring, and he's having a tough time right now. So you can only imagine if he gets going, that's just more headaches for the Bandits.
And he's one of those guys you can't forget about because he's so dangerous and he brings so much to the table offensively.
We've got a break on the floor. 3:18 to go in the third quarter. Rock 9, Bandits 9. This is the National Lacrosse League on the Lacrosse Network.
This is Buffalo Bandits Lacrosse. Get your tickets now, starting at just $28, or your McDonald Family 4-pack for just $89. Don't miss the hard-hitting, high-scoring action this season.
Score! Stenhouse loses check, takes a shot, he scores!
Tickets are available at the First Niagara Center box office, online at bandits.com, or by phone at 1-888-467-2273. See you in Banditland.
Saturday, May 17th at 7:30 p.m. at the Blue Cross Arena. Come cheer on your Nighthawks as they look to bring home the Champions Cup. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster.com or by calling 585-454-HAWK. That's 585-454-4295. The Rochester Nighthawks. No limits lacrosse.
Back inside the Air Canada Center as the Rock cheerleaders wrap up, trying to rev up the crowd here at the ACC. Pretty good crowd on hand for this NLL East semifinal. And Glenn, we were talking about Ryan Benesh during the break. 4 of his goals tonight have been with the game tied, giving his team the lead. The 5th goal he just scored tied the game. This guy has been money, and still the Rock can't figure him out.
Yeah, and he's just got that, you look at him from his physical stature, but he's very strong, he's very quick, and he maintains control of the ball well. So he's a very difficult player to contain in traffic, and he's got a real nice shot from the outside as well.
And there's Benesh with the ball again, looking for his double hattie as he passes off. In front, Miller with a nice save and stands his ground as Jamie Rooney, the former Rock, drove the net. And Brandon Miller said no to that. And it remains 9-9 with under 3 minutes to go here in the third quarter.
A nice save by Brandon Miller. When you get those offensive players coming across the crease with that lateral movement, that's a difficult play for the goaltender. They have so many options. So that was a great save, stepping across, shutting it down.
We've seen a lot of great goals this year as Colin Doyle looks for his 4th. A lot of great goals with players just using that athletic ability, the speed. They gain the speed and then they get across and they get airborne. And there's a shot. Nick Diachenko didn't need to go airborne. In fact, he bounces that one in, and it's good for a 10th Rock goal as they lead 10-9.
Yeah, and similar to Ryan Benesh's last goal, it didn't really look like a dangerous play. It was well defended, just a little spin and release, and found a spot behind Cosmo.
For Diachenko, one-time property of the Bandits. In fact, he was drafted by the Bandits and cut loose. He said that he's playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder against his old team, and in 3 games this year, he scored 2 goals, 4 points, and gets his first playoff game, gets his first career playoff goal. So that's got to feel even better for Diachenko.
And his teammates. It's good timing.
And another big save by Brandon Miller, looking like a human wall in front of that net. He wasn't moving as Stenhouse did what he does. He loves driving to the net and getting airborne, and that time denied by Brandon Miller in the big pileup in front of the Rock goalie.
Yeah, they're going hard underneath towards that goal, and Toronto's got to stop letting those guys get underneath, because eventually those goals are going to find the back of the net.
Just a reminder, this copyright telecast of the National Lacrosse League Incorporated may not be retransmitted, reproduced, or rebroadcast without the express written consent of the National Lacrosse League. Diachenko looking for another shot, and it's stopped by Cosmo this time. So he denied for his second goal, and here comes Mitch Wild. Big Mitch Wild, who will drop off to Benesh. And it looks, Glenn, the last couple of times down for the Bandits, the game plan has been get the ball wide and then drive the net.
Yeah, and they've really been trying to get in underneath.
And Benesh again, and he does it again. Left open, and he says thank you very much and deposits his 6th goal of the game, the double hattie for Benesh. And this game is tied once again at 10s.
That's that composure we talked about. He's just so smooth when he gets near that net. And strong on the ball.
And it just seems, and we've got a flag thrown by John Lovell, so they will challenge this and maybe try to slow down the Benesh Express as Mark Ardonio picks up the flag and will walk it over to the box to review this. Either way, though, it's very impressive. Benesh, though, that time, and I was going to say, Glenn, whatever the game plan on defense is for the Rock, he is being left seemingly wide open to do what he wants to do at will.
And you know what? There's something to be said about, great offensive players. The game looks different to them, and he just finds those seams. And even when he turned the corner there, he didn't rush. A lot of players would have got that open look and just fired the ball as soon as they found a seam. He had the composure to take extra strides, composure in traffic, and put a nice fake on the goaltender. And it's just, you know what? That's what makes them great offensive players.
And that's also experience. I mean, he's been around long enough now that he's only in his 8th career playoff game, but he's been in the league long enough to understand the dynamics of when to shoot, when to move, when to cut, and clearly he's put it all together tonight, Glenn.
Yeah, and he's always had that ability. He was a number 1 overall draft choice for a reason, and he's that gift, that it factor that the great offensive players have. He certainly has it. I'm just amazed at his composure when he's in traffic. He just is. I don't think his heart rate goes above 80 when he's in the middle of the floor.
Yeah, he's a pretty even keel kind of kid, isn't he? And you had him, of course, as a coach here with the Rock in 07. So when you saw him, even as the number 1 pick, and we know sometimes number 1 picks come in with a lot of pressure, a lot of hype, did you see this kind of game in him even then?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He had that composure. He's certainly matured into his role and has become a much more effective player. And there's a sign from Gardino that it's a good goal. 6th goal for Ryan Benesh.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable night. And it's still the 3rd quarter.
Yeah.
And so he single-handedly has put the Bandits on his back tonight to try to keep his team around. Some of the other big guns have been kind of quieted a little bit, but Benesh has been brilliant. 6 goals, 6 of 10 Bandit goals, and it is 10-10 as Miller will scoop up the loose ball and he will look for a outlet, and he does. It's Diachenko, but they get called for the 8-second rule now, and so the Bandits will take over with a fresh 30 as they look to regain the lead. Dane Smith across to Benesh. You almost think, Glenn, he could shoot it from anywhere right now. It'd probably go in the way he's gone tonight.
Yeah, you're sitting there watching the game. Why wouldn't you put it in his stick?
Stainhouse with the shot as Chapman and Culp go after each other a little bit, and then a little bit of smack talk, and they continue, and now it's Edwards who knocks down the aforementioned Benesh, and maybe the Rock figuring that's one way to slow him down, although it's Chapman that's getting the gate for the cross-check, and I'm thinking we go back to the run-in with Chad Culp, and that's probably where he picked it up. But the Rock maybe trying to get a little bit more physical with the Bandits to try to slow them down a little bit, and they draw a penalty instead.
Yeah, and Buffalo's got to take advantage of these opportunities. These are, they've got to match Toronto's power play.
And so the Bandits go on the power play for the 3rd time tonight. They've converted 1 of 2 chances so far, and there's Tavares, who's converted a lot of chances in his 23-year career, and he hits one off the post, almost gave the Bandits the lead. 25 seconds to go. They won't need the shot clock here. They'll hold it out for the one last shot. As Banesh with the shot, misses. Stainhouse, a little patient. Tavares, Banesh, Stainhouse, shot, misses. They'll get the reset. 6 seconds to go as the Rock will just try to eat the clock, and there's Damon Edwards. Does a great job of killing the clock and denying the Bandits from another opportunity. They got a couple of good looks there right at the end of the quarter to maybe take the lead, but they'll have to settle for a 10-10 tie. They started tied, they're still tied after 3 quarters. Rock 10, Bandits 10. You're watching the National Lacrosse League on the Lacrosse Network.
Support the National Lacrosse League and show the world you're a fan with team merchandise from the National Lacrosse League official online store, shop.nll.com. You'll find a great selection of National Lacrosse League team items, including t-shirts, sweatshirts, accessories, and more. You'll also find great customer service, 365-day hassle-free returns, and fast shipping. So show the world you support the National Lacrosse League with official gear from shop.nll.com.
Evans flip pass. Here's a shot. Dixon into the net. Scores! Curtis Dixon again! It's 11-10 Calgary.
Want more great NLL action? Subscribe to the Lacrosse Network on your computer, tablet, or mobile device for access to all the games, live on YouTube. Get highlight reels, interactive player interviews, and behind-the-scenes coverage on all your favorite teams. YouTube.com/TLN. Subscribe today.
Back inside the Air Canada Centre, Claude Fay, Glenn Clark, as we set for the start of the 4th quarter. The game tied at 10. Bandits tying it up. Ryan Banesh doing most of the damage tonight with 6 goals. And it's been a one-man show, but Anthony Cosmo has been pretty good. The Rocket fired 45 shots at Cosmo. He's made 35 saves. Brandon Miller had a bit of a shaky start, but he's made 26 saves on 36 chances. We'd like to welcome the Rochester Nighthawk fans that are watching tonight to see who will play in these finals. Of course, Nighthawks home and cooled out. They're trying to figure out who it's going to be tonight. The Nighthawks' next home game is Game 2 of the East Finals, Saturday, May 17th at 7:30 at Blue Cross Arena. For tickets, visit nighthawks.com. So yeah, the Nighthawks can just sit back and watch like the rest of our fans here in Canada and the U.S. to see who they're going to play. And right now, their guess is as good as ours, Glenn, because this one's been tight all the way.
Yeah, it's certainly too close to call at this point.
Miller gets a piece of that one off the shot by Banesh. Power play still has 50 seconds. There's Tavares with a shot, and he scores. John Tavares is finally on the board. His first goal of the game, and more importantly, gives the Bandits an 11-10 lead.
Capitalizing on the power play, we said would be a difference maker, and that's a big goal at this stage for the Bandits.
John Tavares, as we mentioned, 19th postseason, 33 games. That is now his 78th goal, 184th point. Just an amazing run, 23 seasons in the league. In fact, had a 185-point game streak snap earlier this season in Minnesota. But
that is amazing.
This guy has done it all.
78 playoff goals. I don't think I had 78 goals in warm-up in the playoffs.
There's a lot of guys can't dream of 78 goals,
no,
never mind scoring them in the playoffs. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Here's Colin Doyle. He's got his share of NLL goals. He's got 3 in this one. Tried to make a pass, and it was picked off. And here comes Mitch Wild, who's got a break. And then passes off as Scott Johnson gets back. Dane Smith with a shot in. Miller time as he makes the save, but they're going to call Dane Smith for a foot in the crease. And so, no goal. The Rock dodged a bullet there. But that was pretty good transition by the Bandits as we get a flag thrown by Troy Cordingley. So he obviously thought maybe that ball was in the net before the crease violation was called, and so they'll review it.
I'm not sure what they were calling, and Dane Smith pulled it out of the crease, and it looked like he put it in. I'm not sure what the call was from the ref.
The only thing I could see is that there was more than one Bandit player around the net. The question is, was their foot in the crease before the ball went in? Was it in the crease before they took the shot? I guess we'll find out, but
interesting in that transition, Ryan Benesh had the ball in his stick right on the crease, and he passed off to Dane Smith. I think if I'm Troy Quarterly, I want him to try and put that one in the net.
One thing you wonder, too, though, is because the Bandits have regained the lead, in any way, could this be a timeout in a sense that Troy wanted, whether we think the goal's good or not, just to maybe stem the tide for the Rock, not give them an easy breakout?
Yeah, possibly, and you know, you as a coach, you probably don't want to end the game with that flag in your pocket, so if you think you've got an opportunity to make a difference, you know, this is certainly the time to use it, because it's probably not something you want to have in your pocket when the game ends.
Problem is, if it's not good here, he's lost the flag.
Yes.
And so that's the downside of making those inquisitions for the officials, is you're taking a chance. You're hoping you're right, but if you're not, that's a big weapon you've lost.
Well, and you'll have a group of guys helping with that decision. I mean, you know, there'll be players that were on the floor that'll give him feedback, the coaches, and if he can get a glimpse at the board as well, he'll use that.
And he's got eyes in the sky here, too, in the press box area, and they're watching the feed like we are, and so they may have seen something, and they'll quickly let him know. And here's Mark Gardonio with the decision. It is a goal.
So they certainly saw something that made it worthwhile. And to be honest, when I saw him pick up the ball, I thought he did a good job of staying out of the crease, picks it up, puts it in right there.
And see, right there, it looks good. They cleared out right away, and he kept his feet behind the net. And now it looked like the Rock may be challenging something here. They're not sure. Well, there's a couple of Rock players, and here comes the captain, Colin Doyle, over to Gardonio to say his piece. And Gardonio obviously explaining whatever he had to say to Colin Doyle was pretty quick and succinct, because Colin took it and he's now going back to John Lovell and letting him know what was said. But in any case, the big news for the Bandits is they now have a 2-goal lead, 12-10, with 13:40 to go here in the fourth quarter. And looking for more. Stainhouse, Resetaritz, Benesh. And now you can almost, if you're the Bandits, you can almost take that extra beat, Glenn, and not have to score right away. You've got a 2-goal lead. You want to make sure that you get a good opportunity.
Yeah, you'd be saying from a coaching standpoint, an offensive standpoint, you know, let's get some good sequences on offense. Let's get some good ball movement, lots of touches. They don't need to push pace. They don't need to rush anything.
And they waited for a shot there from Joe Resetaritz, the Hamburg, New York native, got a shot on Brandon Miller and was denied, and back come the Rock. And here's LeBlanc. Steph LeBlanc has been denied the whole night, looking for his first goal. Casey Behrens has had a nice night. Sanderson looking to give it back to Hellier, but they'll run out of time, and on the turnover, the long lead pass to Andrew Watt goes a little high, but he's able to track it down and will hand it off to Jamie Rooney.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this is a time where they want to get some good ball movement, spread the floor, get the Rock players moving, try and get repossessions.
Now it'll be interesting to see what kind of game the Rock want to play. They're trying to play a little bit of denial defense, and Rooney cuts through the key looking for the pass, but how will the Rock now play down 2 goals? They have a lot of time, but this is where the chess match continues, right, Glenn?
Yeah, and I think with this much time, I mean, there's still lots of time in a lacrosse game. 2 goals is certainly not panic time, and, you know, they're going to play within their system, within their skill set. I don't think they're going to take chances at this stage, but
there's a shot. Diachenko, the one-timer, lets fly and finds the back of the net, and the Rock back within 1, trailing 12-11.
Yeah, and I was just about to finish that statement. Keep the ball moving, good ball movement, get some good looks, and that's what they did.
Second goal of the game for Nick Diachenko. Doesn't have a lot of experience, but as we mentioned, has a chip on his shoulder for facing the team that drafted him and then let him go. But John Lovell loves his compete level and, more importantly, his toughness. And maybe he's created a little bit of extra room for himself because he's had a couple of really nice goals tonight from fairly far out.
Yeah, he looks like he can put a bit of pace on the ball. He's got pretty good release and a good hard shot.
Oh, and speaking of a good hard shot, Ressa Terich beat Miller but couldn't beat the net as he hit one off the post. And so Brandon Miller gladly will see that one bounce off the pipe and down the floor as the Bandits reset. 11:15 left to go here in the fourth quarter. East semifinal. Rock Bandits on the Lacrosse Network here. Stainhouse driving the net and shot it right over top as Miller may have changed the direction of the shot, getting his stick up a little bit. And the Rock will reset now, bringing it over the timeline as Damon Edwards.
Brendan Miller's done a real good job moving laterally across the crease.
Damon Edwards, and here we go. And he's going to get called for a cross check, but we may have two penalties. The refs conferring here that maybe Rory Smith was in on one of the plays and maybe he got called for something. I guess we'll find out. We've got a cross check here for Damon Edwards, and that may be the only penalty as the Bandits staff tends to Rory Smith rather, who's a pretty tough cookie, and what a sports family. We know his two brothers play in the NHL, and they faced each other in the first round of the playoffs, Detroit and Boston, and one of his brothers continues to play as the Bruins won today. So we got a lot to talk about playoff-wise in the Smith household.
Yeah, they need a few TVs to watch all the activities that's going on. And I believe his brother that plays for Boston got the game-winning goal today against Montreal.
Yeah, and so
it's been a big day for the Smith family.
Good times, absolutely. Yeah. So here come the Bandits as Damon Edwards sits down, and that was one of the things that John Lovell talked to us about from Edwards' perspective, is that sometimes the choice of action on the floor as Benesh makes them pay again, and Benesh rolls a 7. And the Bandits have a 13-11 lead.
I mean, I don't know what else to say about the way Ryan's playing. Like, you watch this shot, and, you know, what chance does any goaltender have on this? He's got a little bit of deception, and he puts that in a 2-inch spot in the top corner. Just an unbelievable goal scorer's goal.
And still, the Rock, they know it's coming. They still can't slow him down. For Benesh now, the 7 goals today give him 22 in just 8 playoff games. Time split between Minnesota and now Buffalo, and he just continues to light it up. And they have an old saying in Buffalo, talking proud, and I'd say they're talking pretty proud right now about Ryan Benesh and the job he's done with the Bandits.
Yeah, he's certainly come up big today. I mean, you couldn't have asked for more of an offensive performance from a player.
And we'll thank Ryan Benesh for running out of room here to write down all these goals he scored on our score sheet. But, I mean, unbelievable performance as Diachenko looks for the hat trick, and he's denied by Anthony Cosmo as Priolo will bring it back up the floor. Sean Williams loses control but then gains it back as the veteran will reset, handing it off to John Tavares. Bandits with a 2-goal lead, under 9.5 to go here in the fourth quarter. Ressa Terich with a shot, and Brandon Miller sticks out the pad on that one. And here comes Jesse Gamble, wise to hold up on a 1-on-3. And the offense will take over, trying to get the Rock back within 1. And here it is, Casey Beers looking for another goal and is denied. Here's Joe Thornberg. Thornberg across. And the shot is denied by Brandon Miller as Derek Suddens, the former Rock player, not really known as a goal scorer, denied on that play by Brandon Miller.
Nice little move at the crease by Derek Suddens. I didn't think he could move that quick. That was impressive.
You know him better than I do.
Yeah.
Of course, he was...
That's why I didn't think he could move that quick.
That's right. He was also part of the Rock championship years here with Toronto. Gamble with a shot. Cosmo with an easy save, saw that one all the way. And it remains a 2-goal lead for the Bandits. As the clock starts to wind down a bit for the Rock, it's coming up on 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It's Stainhouse.
Still not panic time for Toronto. They still, they need to play their game. They've got to, still stick with their offensive systems, their defensive systems, and hope for turnovers.
Well, that was good defensive play on Stainhouse, who was trying to go one-on-one, sort of posting up. And here comes the shot by Ethan O'Connor. And so the Rock got the chance they wanted in transition, but Cosmo stands his ground. That's now 38 saves for Anthony Cosmo. He's faced 49 shots and looking like the MVP Troy Corntley said he was of his team this past season, and looking like the guy who's used to facing a lot of shots.
Yeah, he's made the big ones, the timely ones that we talked about, keeping momentum for his group.
And Miller made a save there, actually looked back behind him. He wasn't sure where the ball was, but he was able to keep it out. Right now, the Bandits have the upper hand. They're up 13-11, 7:27 to go here in the fourth quarter. This is the National Lacrosse League on the Lacrosse Network.
Support the National Lacrosse League and show the world you're a fan with team merchandise from the National Lacrosse League official online store, shop.nll.com. You'll find a great selection of National Lacrosse League team items, including t-shirts, sweatshirts, accessories, and more. You'll also find great customer service, 365-day hassle-free returns, and fast shipping. So show the world you support the National Lacrosse League with official gear from shop.nll.com.
Evans, flip pass. Here's a shot. Dixon into the net. Scores! Curtis Dixon again! It's 11-10 Calgary.
Want more great NLL action? Subscribe to the Lacrosse Network on your computer, tablet, or mobile device for access to all the games, live on YouTube. Get highlight reels, interactive player interviews, and behind-the-scenes coverage on all your favorite teams. YouTube.com/TLN. Subscribe today.
Back inside the Air Canada Center, Claude Faig and Glenn Clark, fourth quarter, 7:27 left to go in the game. Bandits up 13-11, and we're just marveling about Ryan Benesch, Glenn. I mean, it doesn't matter what the Rock have tried to slow him down. He had just found different ways to beat them.
Yeah, we talked about his composure in traffic, and he just appears to be so unflappable in that offensive zone when, big bodies are trying to hit him and come across and slide and all the activity that happens in that offensive zone. He has that ability to slow the game down and just kind of smooth his way through that offensive zone.
As we mentioned, the goals have come at key times. 3 of the 4 goals that he had scored early came with the game tied, and of course has given the Bandits now the lead with his latest. And here comes David Brock. Gets slammed into the boards by Jesse Gamble, and Brock on a rare transition. And the Bandits will retain possession, but he's been the story. There's no doubt. Ryan Benesch, the former Rock. And we would have expected Benesch to have a good game. We also would have expected some of the other veterans to have a good game for the Bandits, but single-handedly putting the Bandits on his back and carrying them right now to a lead and 6:24 away from the East Final in a date with a 2-time defending champion Rochester Nighthawks.
Well, and the money players, right? Playoffs is when they make their name, and he's, Ryan's attempting to do that.
Well, here's
7
a money
goals
player.
Exactly. Collins made a career of doing that.
Couldn't get a shot off as the Bandits D swarmed them a little bit, and here's Dane Smith. A nice cut and a nice pass and an even better save by Brandon Miller, who stones the NLL's all-time leading scorer, John Tavares. that could have been the game, Glenn, the way things have gone the last few minutes. That would have been maybe a tougher get for the Rock, but right now they're still only down 2 with 5:45 to go. Here's Josh Sanderson across to Rob Hellier.
And that was going to be my comment. Remember that save, because that may turn out to be, that could change the fate of how this game ends up.
Well, here's Sanderson. Can't do anything with the ball. Loses it as Brock will scoop it up and bring it over the timeline and will hand off to the offense. And so the Bandits go back to work again. Stainhouse with a nice give and go to Resetaritz, and another save by Brandon Miller. And again, the Rock dodge another bullet.
Two
Miller
fantastic saves and timely.
And so, yes, Miller time for the Rock, because right now they need every ounce of energy and bounces they can get. And so for now, Miller has saved their bacon a couple of times. And here come the Rock again with a shot. And Diachenko, the unexpected offensive scoring threat for the Rock. Diachenko does it again. The Hattie as the Rock trailed 13-12.
And that nice release, and he's got some power on that shot. He's had the ability to beat Cosmo clean from some different spots on the floor. And we mentioned those saves by Brandon Miller to keep this game close. Stops John Tavares in tight, Resetaritz.
So Diachenko, who only played 3 games this season and had 2 goals, has already bettered his output in 1 game, and they're big goals in the playoff game here. And his 3rd of the game has pulled the Rock within 1. And so whatever the Rock haven't been able to figure out about Ryan Benesh, the Bandits clearly have no answer for Nick Diachenko right now. And there's Chad Culp moving in and gets it right back. Chad Culp. And that could be the dagger as the Bandits do what they've done most of the night. They bounce right back after giving up a goal and regain their 2-goal lead.
Chad Culp's a longtime player in this league. He's a tough competitor himself, and he's deceptively quick. You watch this move he makes. He's got that sneaky speed, and he's got a good stick. He's it's players like that can make the difference when you get into these tight games.
And that could be a backbreaker for the Rock. Culp, playing in his 7th career playoff game now, scores his 6th goal and 20th point, and he is a veteran. He's been with 5 NLL teams, including Minnesota, where he had his best offensive output seasons there. But he's just been a wily veteran presence for the Bandits, and gets a big goal here with 4 minutes to go, and the Rock back down by 2 as we get a penalty against the Bandits, and it looks like an illegal pick perhaps, and one of the Rock players down, banged up, Patrick Merrill, and the Bandits will go to the box and maybe give the Rock a little bit of life.
Chad Culp jumped into a pick on Patty Merrill there and caught him up high.
Well, the Rock go to the power play when we come back. 4:01 to go here in the 4th quarter at the Air Canada Centre. Bandits 14, Rock 12. You're watching the National Lacrosse League on the Lacrosse Network.
Support the National Lacrosse League and show the world you're a fan with team merchandise from the National Lacrosse League official online store, shop.nll.com. You'll find a great selection of National Lacrosse League team items, including t-shirts, sweatshirts, accessories, and more. You'll also find great customer service, 365-day hassle-free returns, and fast shipping. So show the world you support the National Lacrosse League with official gear from shop.nll.com.
Evans, flip pass, here's a shot, Dixon into the net, scores! Curtis Dixon again! It's 11-10 Calgary!
Want more great NLL action? Subscribe to the Lacrosse Network on your computer, tablet, or mobile device for access to all the games, live on YouTube. Get highlight reels, interactive player interviews, and behind-the-scenes coverage on all your favorite teams. YouTube.com/TLN. Subscribe today.
Well, this game's been pretty good so far. There's still another one to come when the game ends here. A reminder to stay with the Lacrosse Network for more live playoff action. The Calgary Roughnecks host the Colorado Mammoth in the West semifinal. Just getting underway out west in a few minutes at the Saddle Dome. In fact, already underway. Just go to the Lacrosse Network homepage, youtube.com/TLN, and click on the live coverage of the Rock and Mammoth, of the Roughnecks and Mammoth, as the Rock score and cut the lead to 1 as they take advantage of a Chad Culp penalty after he had scored. Probably a little undisciplined, took the penalty, gave the Rock a chance, and Casey Behrens buries his 4th of the game, and the Rock trailed by 1.
It's that great ball movement by the Toronto Rock on their power play. Mentioned it off the top. I think, in terms of ball movement and scheming on offense, their power play, I think, is the top in the league. They're so dangerous. They move the ball so well.
And so the Rock still have some life. It looked like Chad Culp may have taken the life out of the Rock with that 14th goal, but then gave him a chance right back, and the Rock capitalized to trail within 1 as Miller makes the save, doesn't know where the ball is, it ends up in the corner.
Holding call on Johnson.
And now we're going to have a penalty called here, and again, the 3-referee system, certainly an extra set of eyes, picking up a lot more things. Scott Johnson not liking that call, thinking he was cross-checked, but he gets called for the hold. And Scott Johnson, one of the most penalized players in the league. In fact, we have 3 of the top 5 in this game with Johnson, Priolo, and Hostrauser. So he knows a little bit about what it's like to sit in the box. Probably not the best time to be sitting right now with 3:18 left to go in the 4th. Benesh with a little backflip to Tavares, who takes the shot and scores. John Tavares bulges the twine again. 2 big goals here in the 4th quarter and restores a 2-goal Bandit lead.
Such a deceptive shooter in John Tavares. He doesn't have the hardest shot, but he has subtle little fakes where he drops the shoulder and placement, and he's just made obviously a great career out of doing that.
So the Bandits capitalize on the power play after the Rock had capitalized on the power play and regain a 2-goal lead. 15-13. 3:08 left to go here in the 4th quarter, and things not looking good for the Rock. The Bandits clearly not playing like a team and certainly not scoring like a team who's lost 8 games in a row. They seem to find a way to wipe that slate clean when the week ended, and our full value for the lead as Brandon Miller stacks the pads and keeps that ball away to maintain it a 2-goal lead. But the Bandits recover the ball and will have a fresh 30.
And it's goaltender pull time now. We talked earlier it wasn't time to change up or panic, but now with 2.5 minutes left and 2 goals, you're going to see Brandon Miller come out because Toronto's got to create something out of desperation here.
And Stainhouse and the Bandits are going to use up every second of the clock as they get another shot off Tavares. Brandon Miller makes the save, and yet as quickly as he makes the save, passes it off to Greer. And here comes Brandon Miller to the bench for the extra player. And the Rock pulling at all the stops here. 2:08 to go, down by a couple of goals. Sanderson, LeBlanc, Doyle, Hellier with the shot. It's partially blocked. There's LeBlanc tried to pick up the rebound, but it was called a crease violation, and so the Bandits will recover, and Miller will scurry back to the net off the bench with 1:50 to go in the game.
Toronto's going to leave a player high in the offensive zone.
Casey Behrens, pretty good guy to leave up there, and hope that the Rock, hoping, of course, they can get a stop here quickly and transition up the floor. It's Chad Culp. Hangs onto the ball somehow. Didn't lose it even though he lost his balance. And here come the Rock as Behrens remains up top. And Miller back to the bench. And the Rock back to a 6-on-5. 1:18 to go. Down by 2 goals, needing a goal in a hurry.
Yeah, they got to get some quick shots here, some quick looks.
Hellier with a shot. Off the mark, and here's Steph LeBlanc looking for a what? The Rock recover, then lose it. And here come the Bandits, who can't get control. They had a wide open net if they did, and so we're under a minute. And the Rock down 2. There's LeBlanc again blocked. The Bandits diving in front of passes now, not allowing a shot. Here's LeBlanc, another block. And what a great job by the Bandits defense to stand their ground and not allow a shot. Sanderson, and again, another partial block. Behrens was stopped in his tracks. and the Bandits just throw it out to mid-floor as the Rock will scoop it up quickly. And they need to get down in a hurry. 22 seconds, down 2 goals. Again, another block. Doyle's shot is stopped. And we've got a stoppage in play here as the Bandits maybe just look for a timeout, but certainly a very well-earned timeout, Glenn. They did everything there right to block that ball from getting through.
Great active sticks in the lanes. Toronto had some good passing lanes going high to low that would have been slam dunks on the crease, and 2 or 3 times the Buffalo defenders got their sticks in the lanes, picked those passes off. So they were disciplined. They kept their sticks in the passing lanes, and it paid off for them.
And all you have to do is see the look of Captain Colin Doyle. He's gasping for air, as are most of the offensive players hunched over at the bench, seemingly trying to do anything and everything to try to get that 14th goal. And the Bandits stood their ground, played a lot of great defense when it really mattered, and when they didn't, Anthony Cosmo came up with the ball, and we're down to 15.6 seconds left. The Rock have fired 54 shots on Anthony Cosmo, beat him 13 times. The Bandits have actually opened it up. 57 shots on Brandon Miller with 15 goals, and the ball gets sent right down the floor, and this is just about going to eat up the clock as the ball goes right down to the end of the floor. 4 seconds as we have a stoppage in play, and we'll have a late turnover for the Rock, who try to bring it over, and that'll do it. The Buffalo Bandits will shuffle off back home with a unlikely victory, come into Toronto having lost 8 straight, and turn things around on the Rock and win it 15-13. Their first playoff victory over Toronto in 4 tries. They will now head to the NLL East Final to meet the 2-time defending champion Rochester Knighthawks.
Yeah, and we talked to Troy Quarterly before the game, and he did mention, he says, the new season, we put those 8 games behind us, and difficult to do, but you know, both teams certainly played a great game and a complete game from the offense and defensive standpoint.
Well, certainly from the offensive standpoint, you can't deny what Ryan Benesh did tonight. 7 goals, I believe 9 points altogether. He was a one-man wrecking crew, but the Rock seemingly had no answer for the former Rock player.
Yeah, he was, we've mentioned it all game long. I mean, just the offensive composure, the skill set to go along with it, just an amazing game, a career game. I mean, I don't know how many guys in the NLL history have had 7 goals in a playoff game, but you know, it's certainly a milestone that he can be proud of, and well earned, and just so efficient in how he did it.
For the Rock, well, some big offensive outputs from some of their players, including Casey Behrens, who had a 4-goal game. Nick Diachenko with the unlikely hat trick, and Colin Doyle also had a hat trick, but just not enough on the defensive side, and Brandon Miller will continue to try to figure out what it takes to win a playoff game, now dropping 0-4 for Anthony Cosmo. You got to know, as they say, the big monkey gorilla off his back finally has an NLL playoff victory after 7 consecutive losses.
And that is an amazing stat for Anthony Cosmo to have, 1 victory in 8 playoff attempts. And you know what, unfortunate for the Toronto Rock, but good for Anthony Cosmo. It's, he's had a long and distinguished career.
Well, we would like to give you the 3-star selection, but I think we can all just kind of easily guess who number 1 was, and that was Ryan Benesh, and there's no doubt about that. Ryan Benesh, just an outstanding game as the Rock take the final curtain call of 2014. Made a good run to get to this point, Glenn. They did win their final 4 games, earned the playoff date here at home, but for the 3rd straight year, the Rock will be knocked out of the playoffs on their home floor.
Yeah, and it's it's never easy to lose in the playoffs. It's a little more difficult when you've fought to gain that home floor advantage, and you think it is an advantage. And they had a strong game. They played well, but Buffalo and in particular Ryan Benesh and Anthony Cosmo were the difference makers in this game.
And the 3 stars now officially, we can tell you, Ryan Benesh, of course, that's an easy choice. Number 1 star with 7 goals. Casey Behrens with his 4 goals was the 2nd star. Anthony Cosmo, what a game he had. 41 saves on 54 Rock shots, gave up 13 goals, but stands his ground when needed, and the Buffalo defense stood their ground when needed to keep the Rock at bay down the stretch and hang on for the 2-goal victory.
Yeah, they're a talented group on the defensive end, and their offensive group put it together as well. So that's, it bodes well for Buffalo moving forward.
And Benesh, in fact, finished with 7 goals, 3 assists. So if you would have said to the Rock before this game that Ryan Benesh was going to light you up for 10 goals and maybe Tavares and Steinhaus and some of the other players wouldn't be as key factors, I don't know how you would have taken that, but you wouldn't have thought that Benesh, as good as he is, would not have seen a 10-point game from Benesh.
Wow, that's hard to see from any player, especially 7 goals. And it was full value. He even turned down a couple of shots by being unselfish. There was a couple of opportunities where he was alone moving towards the net and he made a pass and passed off. He could have been a little more selfish and got up to 8 or 9 goals, but he distributed the ball well, and he had a complete offensive game, which you want out of your offensive leader.
So the Buffalo Bandits, they picked a great time to snap an 8-game losing streak as they win the NLL East semifinal here in Toronto, beating the Rock 15-13, will now advance to play the Rochester Nighthawks. And remember, in the final and the Champions Cup final, you're talking 2 out of 3, so they will host the first game against the Nighthawks next weekend before heading down to Rochester and Blue Cross Arena on May 17th for the return date, and possibly a 3rd game if they're tied after the first 2 with a 10-minute overtime. But the Bandits, full value, outshoot the Rock 57-54, outscore them 15-13. We're back with our post-game show from Toronto after this.
Are we the post-game show?
Yes.